Hey folks, MasakoX here. If you are a fan of Raditz, then you will like this one, as well as the full story video that I put out on the series a while back, where you can watch the entire story of Raditz turning good from beginning to end. If you got about, say 5 hours to spare, then I think you'll have fun with it. For this portion of time, however, I've got a different kind of story for you. Raditz here landed on Earth, but he wasn't supposed to, at least not alone. In this variation of the story, Bardock and Gine had sent both their children off to Earth, but Kakarot got sadly caught by the Freeza force and was forced to work for them, albeit with the help of Nappa, to cope somewhat. As for Raditz, well, he saved his own sorry hide and had it made on Earth. Powerful, confident, with a tinge of guilt, but a relaxed life, and oh yeah, Bulma's his girlfriend. That being said, that does lead to a rather harrowing moment if you remember our last visit to the story. In the last part, things were going so well too. Frieza had no clue where Kakarot had gone, and the trail for him regaining his favourite pet monkey had well and truly gone ice cold, ironically. As far as Frieza was aware, Kakarot had crashed on some random moon and was considered lost or dead, no trace of him remaining. We know that he was brought to Earth by the Dragon Balls thanks to Raditz finally getting around to wishing his brother to safety. Took him long enough, right? Now away from the Freeza force, seemingly for forever, Kakarot went from strength to strength and got himself familiar with the planet Earth, his new home. He adapted actually rather quickly and underwent the training that Raditz went through with Master Roshi, which then led to both of them being ready to take part in the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, and they got to meet Chi-Chi, who seemingly started to lay her eyes on the younger Kakarot, him being much more suitable. Actually for her, she had no idea that Raditz had had a younger brother. He never mentioned it, or at least she couldn't recall it. And this way though, it meant that she could be in Raditz's life still, whilst also having a little piece of that monkey boy pie. Oh my Chi-Chi, for someone so demure in the original tome, you can rather cook up something saucy in terms of your fantasies. But sadly, the party's over despite Raditz winning the tournament. In one desperate and disastrous move, Krillin was persuaded by Tambourine to get his revenge on Raditz, the latter playing on the former's emotional instability and sneakiness to Bulma. Take away the one thing that Raditz cared for most in all of his life, and you'll make him pay. Raditz was undergoing a transformation. Was it Super Saiyan, I hear you ask? This early in the plot? Well, no. That would be a little bit ridiculous here, and this isn't an April Fool's what if. If you want that sort of thing, you can check out what we came up with this year, and that's a doozy. Raditz held Bulma in his arms. Her motionless figure slumped awkwardly in his grasp. He couldn't believe this could have happened in such a peaceful moment. Everything was going so well. Chi-Chi clutched onto Kakarot and wept. Granted, she didn't like Bulma all that much, but she would have never wished to see her be taken out in such a heinous and conniving manner. This was beyond the pale, and it actually made her realize that all her years fuming with jealousy and having resentful thoughts over... It was rather petulant and childish, frankly. He may not have been going Super Saiyan, but he could feel rage boiling from within him that he had never felt before. And no, it's not Ikari form either. The one that you all wanted to see, that was unique to Broly, and that kind of thing. Thusly, for me to insert that into here to make Raditz look cool for the sake of the story would be again rather far-fetched. This is more like false Super Saiyan, the form that Goku used in the Lord Slug movie, and briefly during the filler whilst Goku was fighting in the other world with Pikkon. Raditz's aura exploded with a yellowish hue, leaving a small crater in the concrete. "I've got it, Protector!" he yelled. He smashed his fist into the ground, causing yet another small crater to form. Roshi picked up a piece of paper, which whipped its way into his vicinity, and he instantly recognized the symbol. "This explains everything. Piccolo has returned." Raditz whipped around, and Roshi was immediately struck and frightened by the awe-inspiring gaze of a furious Raditz. The pupils in his eyes had gone. He looked mad. In every sense of the word, the epitome of wrathful anger. Kakarot walked over to Raditz and placed his hand on his brother's shoulder. "Raditz, control yourself." He said this with a wavering in his voice. Kakarot had no clue what this power was that Raditz was exuding right now. He was scared. He wasn't even sure that Raditz was entirely cognizant right now. But he had to find some way to temper this, bring back some sense of rationality to his brother, or else this could spell doom for everyone. Saiyans weren't best known for being, let's say, careful when provoked.
"We've got to find whoever did this and make them pay. Let me help you, bro."
Raditz began to breathe loudly and tried his best to harness this power, bringing himself back from the brink to some kind of sense of normality. It took everything he had to do it, but he just about managed it. Roshi stepped over to his pupils.
"My boy, this was the work of the agents of King Piccolo, one of the most terrific, malevolent beings ever to have graced the planet. His power and tyranny is matched by no other."
But a twinkle glared from Roshi's eye.
"That being said, I feel that his return might have been foolhardy,"
he said with a wry smile to boot. But Raditz was confused.
"Why are you smirking at a time like this, Master? Bulma's dead!"
Roshi wagged his finger.
"You forget. We have the Dragon Balls. They can bring her back in good time."
Raditz then pointed out the fact that the Dragon Radar was gone, and a Dragon Ball. They didn't have the means to find them in good time, or anybody related to this deed. Roshi then dropped the bombshell that he could sense energy, as part of his overall hermit training after decades of careful tutelage and study. He hadn't gotten round to teaching them that yet, but now it was relevant.
"This is something that no average person can do. It took me a very long time in which to understand it, but I can detect melodious energies fleeing this place, and..."
Roshi bowed his head in realization when he actually looked closely.
"One that has been swayed sadly to their court."
Just then, Master Shen stomped over to the scene and demanded to know where Krillin had gone, whether Roshi had manipulated him to betray him like he had done so with Tenshinhan and Chaozu, despite the pair actually doing that of their own free will. And the pair then sternly rebuked their former master and said that they had no idea where Krillin was right now. Then it dawned on all of them.
"No way,"
said Tenshinhan.
"It can't be."
"It can. Old man, guide me to him. It's time that I settled this." Roshi looked anxious, but remembered that Raditz technically had the power to stop King Piccolo and then some. And with Kakarot here by his side, this could be done relatively quickly. With Roshi on his back, he, Raditz and Kakarot were about to leave to search for Krillin. Raditz then turned to Chi-Chi and the others. "And Chi-Chi, if any agent of this Piccolo comes this way, kick their ass." She nodded with a mixture of somber confirmation and slight awe. Even though Raditz wasn't on her radar anymore, romantically speaking, she still had to admit that in that precise moment, he was pretty cool. The trio rocketed out of the tournament grounds and off to find Krillin. Speaking of Krillin, he was extremely terrified. Despite the initial act of offing Bulma feeling good in his mind, in hindsight though, well, that was gone. It was a stupid move in retrospect. The stupidest move he had ever made. There was no way imaginable that Raditz or any of the others would ever forgive him. Ever. Bulma had done nothing wrong, really, despite getting on his nerves. But what he did was pathetic, and he knew it. Too late, mate. But despite this, Tambourine did his best to comfort the humans so that he didn't run away as they approached the den of King Piccolo. Piccolo welcomed the young fighter into his throne room aboard Pilaf's airship and clapped him.
"Bravo! I believe congratulations are in order. You have a Dragon Ball with you. Yes, child?"
Krillin nodded meekly. Tambourine then presented the radar.
"As well as a means to locate the other Dragon Balls in next to no time, father." "Such a thing exists. What a time to be alive. Excellent work, the pair of you. Son, proceed to locate the orbs right away. Leave this one to me. Krillin, that's your name, right?"
Krillin was scared now. He tried to frantically take the radar back, but Tambourine was already out the door. The king got down from his throne, decreasing in size to now being a far less imposing 7 foot tall. Still pretty terrifying though, but the power and presence that he had vastly outstretched his appearance. He knelt down so that his eyes met the monks and smiled.
Do not be ashamed of what you did, young one. Sometimes people simply need to know their place within this world, and others need to realize what they are truly capable of. You fall into the latter category.
Piccolo gazed more deeply at him.
I sense a desire for recognition within you, Krillin. A chance to prove yourself, to prove those who doubted you wrong. The monastery you were raised in denounced you as a failure.
How did he know that?
That Roshi fool mistook your gumption for arrogance, and even that Shen failed to utilize your powers to the fullest. What a sad fool he was. But I can help you there. With my help, you can become the greatest human the world has ever seen. Second only to I.
Krillin felt less scared, but still thoroughly confused.
But your son, isn't he meant to be?
Piccolo hacked a dry laugh.
Ha! Tambourine! He is but a tool to realize my goal. I can always make more of them. His usefulness is fleeting, but yours, though, is far more bearable. That Raditz fellow, the one you hold so much anger toward, he will come for you, and I shall prepare you.
Krillin's ego was being stroked in the right way. He continued to listen to the ramblings of the king whilst Tambourine set about finding the Dragon Balls. After hours of running, the trio made it to the location of Krillin's energy, but saw nothing but grass. Had Roshi's gimmick turned out to be nothing but hot air? Hot air. Something felt hot. Kakarot's hair rustling for some reason, despite there being no breeze. He then looked up.
Look! It's a ship!
Yeah, they were looking at the bottom of an airship. The hot air obviously coming from the vents and the thrusters. Wait, was that Pilaf's ship? He had something to do with this too! But there was no time for this. Raditz asked Roshi whether Piccolo's energy was there. The old man nodded.
I waited a long time for this. I always knew Piccolo would return in some manner. But now, kids, waste 'em!
Roshi knew full well that these Saiyans possessed far more power than the demon. They were his ace in the hole. In unison, the brothers launched a double Kamehameha straight at the ship, and it struck. Inside the craft, sirens were blaring, and the crew of the ship were desperately trying to regain control. Piccolo cursed their uselessness, and despite his conditioning of Krillin being curtailed earlier than he would have liked, he felt that whoever was daring to anger the Great King should be subject to his latest pupil. Now wearing the gi of the king, Krillin was ready. Oh. The pair leapt from the ship and landed on the ground, and met the eyes of Raditz, Kakarot, and Roshi, Piccolo recognizing the latter.
Ah, yes. You. I had a feeling you would turn up eventually. Age has not done you a service. I can say the same about you, old-timer, Roshi replied. Your days are numbered. You'll be wishing you stayed in that damn rice cooker after all this.
Kakarot got into position.
Piccolo laughed. You, little runt. You wish to fight me?
Nobody harms my brother, or anyone on this planet!
Piccolo laughed, but immediately wished that he hadn't stoked them. Immediately, Kakarot was decking the king severely. He had no answer to this, and was doing his best to try and defend himself, whilst Krillin watched in shock. This was how strong these two were, when there was no tournament to temper them? He had no idea. But he quickly regained his resolve though, as he stared at Raditz. Raditz had nothing but an icy stare to send back the monk's way. Krillin stood his ground though, having been bolstered by King Piccolo.
I'm not afraid of you, Raditz! I never have been! I beat you once and I can do it again! Keep my name out your damn mouth! You have no right to speak it!
Now Raditz could easily one-shot Krillin at this point, but he chose not to. That was too easy and painless, full of mercy. Instead, Raditz took his time, thoroughly wailing on the monk. Where was the greatness that King Piccolo had promised him, Krillin thought. Had all that been a trick? Just like King Piccolo liked to do with everybody else? He just got what he wanted from Krillin and just basically left him to the lions? Krillin weakly looked at Piccolo, who was having troubles with Kakarot, and cursed him. He had been used, just like with everybody else. He tried to tell Raditz that Piccolo had tricked him, manipulated him, that he had been forced to kill Bulma.
Don't worm yourself out of this one, wretch! You killed her! Your hand! You didn't have to do it! You could have easily refused, turned a blind eye, allowed what's left of your minute consciousness to win out, but no! You did it. You took the chance to get back at me, and now you'll pay for it.
Raditz let loose his newfound power, powering up to that yellow aura again, punching Krillin so hard, well, the monk's insides got a nice bit of fresh air, before he was then vaporized. Roshi saw all this go down and bowed his head. Despite Krillin being taken out, and him having to pay for his actions, he still didn't like to see it.
What a waste. It's never good to see such young blood be corrupted. I hope what's ever up there can forgive you, Krillin.
With the king's empty promises laid bare, Piccolo was now about to be wasted as well. But a sudden shout from somewhere stopped the Saiyan brothers in their tracks.
Wait! Stop! If you do that, the Dragon Balls will no longer exist!
It was an elderly voice, and neither of them recognized it. But in that split second, Piccolo used this moment to escape. He recognized the voice. That momentary flinch was just the thing he needed to flee. The Saiyans had been compelled to stop by a very major presence. Piccolo sensed that something had spoken to them, and he laughed as he ran away to find his son.
Kami, you cowardly fool. Couldn't look death in the eyes, eh? You'll regret that.
Raditz stomped the ground and shouted out at the voice, wherever it was, for daring to get in their way. The voice then spoke again.
If you want an explanation, come to the sacred land of Korin, and await further instruction.
The voice ceased. Wait, Korin's place? He had something to do with this? Kakarot wasn't sure about this, trusting a maligned voice, but Raditz nodded.
Korin's legit, Kakarot, but he'd better tell me what we need to know, or so help me.
Every second we waste is another second in the pocket of those who seek the Dragon Balls. Old man, any other ideas? Roshi mused the Mafuba, explaining what it was and that it was the thing that originally contained Piccolo, but warned that such a move might be pretty drastic.
I and my masters used it long ago to seal King Piccolo away. It almost killed us, and almost killed me. It is not meant to be used lightly.
Master, I'm ready to take that chance. Teach me. Raditz, you go to that place wherever it was and find out what's going on.
Raditz nodded. That sounded like a plan. A two-pronged approach. And with that, the brothers parted ways to seek a solution to King Piccolo's predicament. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you liked this story where Raditz was a better person, you can also check out this what if here, where Raditz was a do-gooder amongst Gine's timeline where she went to Earth with Goku and grew up with him. And as always, I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!